South Australia's Parliament is based on the British system and consists of two Houses of Parliament, the Legislative Council or Upper House and the House of Assembly or Lower House. Each House is made up of elected members or parliamentarians. There are 47 members in the House of Assembly and 22 members or councillors in the Legislative Council. The government is formed by the political party which has the most members elected to the House of Assembly at a general election. General elections for both houses must be held between 3 and 4 years from the opening of the first session of Parliament under any newly elected government. At that time, all House of Assembly seats are declared vacant, but because of their longer term of office, only half of the Legislative Council seats are declared vacant. Elections are then held to fill these vacancies. The House of Assembly consists of 47 members, who each represent an electoral district. The state is therefore divided into 47 electoral districts, each containing approximately equal numbers of electors. The boundaries of these districts are reviewed at regular intervals. At a general election, candidates stand for election in each district. A returning officer is responsible for conducting each election and declares the winning candidate the member for that district. The district for the Legislative Council, however, consists of the whole of the state, and therefore only one election is necessary to elect its councillors. A general election is caused when writs are issued by the Governor of South Australia, and he is usually advised by the government of when to do this. There is a separate writ for each house, and an election is not completed until both writs have been returned to the Governor. In the writs, the Governor fixes the date and time for the close of the electoral rolls, the date for the nomination of candidates, the date of the election, which must always be a Saturday, and the date for the return of the writs. Together, these dates make up the election period. As you can see, the election period can vary. This flexibility is important, as it enables the government to determine how long its election campaign will run. The writs are addressed to the Electoral Commissioner, who as head of the State Electoral Department is responsible for the overall running of the elections. The Commissioner advises each of his returning officers of the contents of the writs to enable them to conduct the election in their own district. The announcement of the issue of the writs by the Premier is greeted with great fanfare, and the Electoral Commissioner advertises the details in the daily press. This also heralds a great rush of activity at the Electoral Office. Many hundreds of people who want to vote at the election and who have not previously enrolled now wish to have their names added to the rolls before they close. Others who have changed their address or are unsure of their enrolment details also contact the office. In the 6 working days from the announcement of the election to the close of rolls, almost 20,000 alterations and additions are made. The rolls are very important. They are simply lists of people who are entitled to vote, although a person may only vote at an election if he or she is enrolled for the district in which the election is being held. Well, who can enroll as an elector? What qualifications do you require to enroll? How do I enroll? You must be 18 years of age or older. You must be an Australian citizen. You must be of sound mind. And your principal place of residence must have been within the district for which you are claiming to enroll for at least 1 month. If you have met these qualifications, then you are entitled to make a claim for electoral enrolment on this card. On it, you must set out your personal details and have your signature witnessed. At the same time, your name is placed on the Commonwealth and local government electoral rolls. Enrolment is compulsory under provisions of the Commonwealth Electoral Act. Where can you obtain an enrolment claim card? They're available at all post offices and at any electoral office. Once completed, you should address the claim card to your Commonwealth Divisional Returning Officer, who registers and maintains the state electoral rolls. All newly enrolled electors are advised on this card of the district for which they have been enrolled. Details of the whereabouts of divisional returning officers may be found in the telephone directory or by telephoning the State Electoral Department. When your claim card is received, it is coded into district order for computerization. Once coded, the cards would normally be punched at the State Electoral Department, but during an election period, outside agencies must be used. There are nearly 100,000 alterations or additions to the rolls each year, and microfiche sets of rolls are regularly produced. During the election, printed rolls must be produced for use in polling booths. These booth rolls are called certified lists of electors. This is a massive task, as there are almost 800 booths throughout the state, and many of these require 10 or more sets of rolls. If you were enrolled before the close of rolls, then your name would have appeared on one of these pages. While many were enrolling, other electors were making arrangements to stand as candidates for election to one of the Houses of Parliament. Most stood for a particular political party, such as the Liberal, Democrat or Labour Party, although some stood as independents supporting particular issues. Candidates, like electors, must meet certain requirements before they're qualified to stand for election. They must be enrolled as an elector, be nominated by 2 electors enrolled in the district that they're standing for, formally consent to stand as a candidate, and pay a deposit of $200, which is forfeited if the candidate does not obtain more than 4% of the vote. This is done to stop frivolous nominations. These are the only qualifications that are necessary for anyone to stand as a candidate. The nomination must be formally made to the returning officer for the district in which the candidate wishes to stand for election. Here, the returning officer for the House of Assembly District of Adelaide is taking the nomination from one of the candidates. All nominations must be made before 12 noon on the day set out in the writ for close of nominations, so that the Electoral Department can begin printing ballot papers that day. At that time, each returning officer publicly declares the nominations accepted by him. If, as is usual, there are more candidates than vacancies, for example, 3 candidates to fill 1 vacancy, then he will adjourn proceedings to polling day, where voting will decide who is elected. This is the returning officer for the Legislative Council declaring his nominations.
Firstly, we have Francis Ann Mowling of the Independent Nuclear Disarmament Platform, NDP. We have Ian Charles Modestack, Independent Nuclear Disarmament Platform, NDP.
The close of rolls and nominations mark the final stages leading to the election, and is followed by frantic preparations at the Electoral Department. The returning officers immediately advise the department of the candidates' names and other details, such as party affiliations, for printing on the ballot papers. This information is computerized and transferred to the government printers for ballot paper production. The candidates' details are carefully checked. Between the close of nominations at 12 noon on the Friday and the following Monday morning, some 3 million ballot papers weighing approximately 7 tons are printed, sorted, counted and distributed to returning and electoral officers throughout the state. Each of the 47 House of Assembly districts has a separate ballot paper printed. Back at the Electoral Department, advertisements advising electors how to complete ballot papers are being prepared for newspapers, radio and television.
Right, tell me all about it. Well, you understand the ballot paper for the House of Assembly, don't you? Yes, exactly the same as last time. Exactly. You just put numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. in all these boxes next to all the candidates in your order of preference. Next to all the candidates. Yep. Right, now tell me about the new ballot paper for the Legislative Council. It's easy. There's two ways of filling it in, yeah? You either put a number 1 in one of the boxes above the red line and nothing in the boxes below, or one above and nothing below, that's what I said, or you put numbers in all the boxes below the red line and nothing in the boxes above. Well, that's simple. Or one above and nothing below, or all below and nothing above.
The number and location of polling booths has to be decided upon and the various schools and halls hired. In the week before the election, the locations of the 800 or so polling booths are also widely advertised in newspapers. Intensive training sessions are held for the returning officers. They in turn hold training sessions for their own polling booth staff. Nearly 6,500 casual employees are engaged to work the booths on polling day, and each must be able to perform their job. At these sessions, ballot papers, certified lists of electors, instructions, equipment and stationery are distributed to the presiding officers who are in charge of the polling booths. During this final week, the tally board and other fittings are being erected at the ABC studios at Walkerville. From here, the election results will be broadcast. Meanwhile, since the close of nominations, many electors who for one reason or another find that they are unable to attend a polling booth on polling day arrange to lodge their vote beforehand. This is called declaration voting. Any elector who on polling day is interstate, travelling, incapacitated or living in remote areas can apply for declaration voting papers, which are available at electoral offices and post offices. These votes have to be made and witnessed prior to the close of polls on polling day. In some hospitals, nursing homes, prisons, and in designated remote areas, electoral visitors or other officials take votes. Declaration votes are sealed in envelopes, which are called declaration vote certificates, and these are forwarded to the appropriate returning officer. They are opened after polling day and included in the final count of votes. On polling day, booth staff arrive early in the morning. Most of the equipment is assembled during the previous night, but last-minute preparations must still be made. Signs are put up. The blank ballot papers are checked and counted. Final instructions are given by the presiding officer, and the ballot boxes are sealed and signed. At exactly 8 o'clock, the doors are opened and voting begins. Here, ordinary ballot papers are being issued to electors. This is the simplest and quickest way to vote, as electors are in their own district, and their names will appear on the certified list of electors for that district. The ballot papers have also been pre-printed with the names of candidates standing for election for that district. Firstly, the elector goes to the ordinary vote table and has his or her name marked off the certified list of electors. Having done that, the official then hands the elector ballot papers. These must be marked in private in a voting screen. If an elector has difficulty in completing the papers, then he may request assistance. The completed ballot papers are then folded by the elector so that no one else can see the vote, and are then placed in the appropriate ballot box, one for the Legislative Council and one for the House of Assembly. The privacy of the vote is a fundamental aspect of our democracy, as it guarantees freedom of choice at the ballot box. Occasionally, errors may occur on the certified list of electors, or electors may find that they are unable to attend a polling booth in their own district on polling day. If this happens, the electors will be directed to the declaration vote table to complete a declaration vote certificate. The official will then prepare and issue the ballot papers, which must be completed in the same manner as ordinary ballot papers. In this case, however, the ballot papers are placed and sealed in the declaration vote certificate before being deposited in the declaration vote ballot box. Outside the booth, political party volunteers distribute how-to-vote cards to electors as they enter. These cards are also displayed in the voting compartments to enable electors to vote for the party or candidates of their choice. During the day, the parties may also send officials called scrutineers to observe the polling in booths. The scrutineers may also observe the count after the close of polls. At 6 o'clock, the doors are closed and locked. The presiding officer, who is now called an assistant returning officer because he is assisting with the count, gives instructions to his staff. It is necessary to distinguish between formal votes, which will be included in the count, and informal or incorrectly completed votes, which will be rejected. This is of vital concern to the scrutineers, as they must protect the interest of their party's candidate. The final decision on any doubtful paper on the night is in the hands of the assistant returning officer. The scrutineers are not allowed to assist in the count or touch any ballot papers. The sealed ballot boxes are examined and opened before the scrutineers to ensure that they have not been tampered with. The contents of the House of Assembly ballot box are emptied first, because it is the final result of this count that will eventually determine which party forms the government. The ballot papers are spread on the table. The informal papers are separated from the formal. During the day, each elector has had to mark his order of preference against the name of every candidate on the ballot papers. This system is known as preferential voting. The formal first preference ballot papers for each candidate are now sorted into piles and counted. In close counts, electors' other preferences must also be counted to determine the winning candidate, but this is not done in the booth. Most electors copy the order of preference advised by the particular political party they want to vote for. Once the House of Assembly ballot papers have been totalled and recorded, the Legislative Council ballot box is emptied, and those papers are then sorted and counted. Here, most candidates have been grouped in political or other interest groups under voting tickets. This system is very complicated, and the final count can take several weeks. In the booth, only a preliminary count of formal papers is made. All the declaration vote certificates are counted and sorted into district order. Every ballot paper must be accounted for, including any unused and informal papers. As soon as the count is completed, the assistant returning officer telephones the results through to the returning officer for his district. All the counted ballot papers and balance sheets are then packed and delivered to the returning officer, often in the early hours of Sunday morning. At his command centre, the returning officer is totalling the booth results as they're phoned through. He, in turn, forwards these results to the tally room. At the tally room, teams of telephonists record these figures on slips, which are taken by young couriers to comptometrists, who computerize and update them. From there, the results are passed to board operators who amend the tally board figures. As you can see, there is a great deal of activity behind the tally board. On the other side, television, radio, and newspaper journalists are anxiously waiting to analyze the results as they appear. Interviews are conducted with leading political party figures and candidates. The first results are posted around 7:30 p.m. and confident predictions of the overall outcome of the election can be made by 8:30. Figures continue to be recorded and posted until nearly midnight. The close of polling brings little respite for the electoral staff. The next morning, the returning officers sort through and check the results from each booth. Any informal or undetermined assembly ballot papers from the previous night's count must be decided upon. But more importantly, from the electors' viewpoint, is that the names of electors who voted on Saturday are marked off a master roll for the entire district. This is a laborious task, but must be done accurately because it is from this list that non-voters are identified. Failure by an elector to give an adequate reason for not having their name marked from this roll may result in prosecution. The declaration vote exchange must also take place. Throughout the day, chartered light aircraft pick up ballot papers, declaration votes, and other material from centres throughout the state. Locally, returning officers deliver this material to the electoral office. The declaration vote certificates are sorted into their appropriate districts in much the same way as mail is sorted. These are then collected by or forwarded to the returning officers to include in their final count. The returning officer for the Legislative Council also receives his ballot papers from the returning officers. This enables him to begin his count. Several teams are engaged on this, and the work extends over many days. As soon as the final declaration votes are received and counted, including any that arrived by post in the week following the election, the returning officers for each of the districts will complete their count by distributing preferences where necessary. In the event of a close result, a candidate may request a recount of the votes, or if he believes that there has been an error or irregularity in the conduct of the poll, he may petition for a court of disputed returns to settle the matter. If the count is in order, the returning officer will formally close the election by declaring the poll. These are public ceremonies that often attract a good deal of public attention. Here we see the declaration of the poll for the House of Assembly District of Adelaide.
Than that which...
People's got some keys and a poll for the Legislative Council.
Here is the returning officer for the Legislative Council declaring his poll.
The district.
Once all of the polls have been declared, the Electoral Commissioner returns the writs advising the Governor of the newly elected Members of Parliament. The final stage, from the winning candidate's point of view, is the opening of Parliament, where they take their place in the House and begin to participate in the business of the government of the people.
What's the idea? Yes. This is when I turn the cameras off.